You there, buddy?
Of the
There you are.
legendary band Smash Mouth. We got Zach Goode right here live on the radio station airwaves. Zach, how are you doing tonight?
Great. Cold here in Los Angeles. Otherwise,
I gotta say, as,
today.
as a person here in Canada, I would have never thought that it's actually cold in California.
Yeah, it's in like 50 degrees, which is pretty cold for around here. Can you hear me? Because your sound and video is completely cutting out.
I can hear you great, Zach. My apologies on
Okay,
that. I can
cool.
hear you great.
Good.
But I do know you're a very busy individual, so of course I'm not going to take you away from your evening too long. But I got to take you back to when you, at a young age, you actually had the opportunity to attend St. Anne's Performing Arts School out there in Brooklyn alongside the Beastie Boys. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about how did you get that opportunity, and of course, did you get the chance to interact with the Beastie Boys during your time at St. Anne's?
Uh, well, I was born in New York City, and I was kind of like a theater kid, into musicals and bands and music and stuff at an early age. So my parents, I guess, kind of recognized that and put me in a performing arts school. I only went there for a couple years, and the years that I went there, I think the Beastie Boys are like maybe 10 years older than me. So I didn't know them at the time. They were way ahead of me. But Jennifer Connelly, the Oscar-winning actress, was in my class in sixth grade, which is kind of cool, from Labyrinth. So she was like my sixth grade crush. So I knew her, um, but I did not know the Beastie Boys personally. But coincidentally, um, when I read their book a couple years ago, the Beastie Boys book, their original drummer, Kate Schellenbach, who went on to form Luscious Jackson, she was my upstairs neighbor for all those years on 14th Street. She had the loft right above us, and I had no memory of that. I didn't know who she was at the time, and I asked my brother, I'm like, "Did you know that Kate Schellenbach was our upstairs neighbor?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that was Kate. We went to go to her house all the time." And I'm like, I had no memory of that whatsoever. So that's my only Beastie Boys kind of connection. And then I kind of later ended up doing a Beastie Boys tribute for a while, doing the MCA part in the Beastie Boys tribute for a while.
And I gotta say as well, definitely rest in peace to MCA. Such a phenomenal individual, gone too soon. I know that man was so adventurous. Like he had the opportunity to climb Everest, hang out with monks. Like I mean, the guy lived an amazing life. But I really wish he was still here with us because he was such a talented individual.
Yeah, man, of course, legendary.
And also as well, after traveling the world, you actually landed in San Diego, California, where you actually fronted the award-winning band Ghoul Spoon. Ghoul Spoon. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about the story behind that band, and of course, how did you get the opportunity to actually meet the other members originally?
Just the fact, but now you know why we changed our name and never got famous. It's a great band, bad name. Um, well, way back after high school, I moved to Hawaii for a while, and I met these guys in Hawaii who were all like the only other long hair musician types out there, and they decided to move to Seattle actually Tacoma for a year to kind of make it big, and with a different singer. And we kind of stayed in touch. And then over the course of that summer, they contacted me and said, "Hey, our singer flaked out, and we're going to move to San Diego. Would you, they sent me a demo tape, and they said, would you want to be our new singer?" And I listened to it, and it was like metal, reggae, funky. Like this is like 1990 maybe. So it was like long before I'd ever heard of 311 or Rage Against the Machine or Incubus or any of those kind of new metal bands. So it was pretty. The only band that was doing that was Red Hot Chili Peppers. Really, this was before Faith No More, before we heard of Mr. Bungle, and it was pretty amazing. So I actually drove cross country and met them in San Diego, and along the way, I stopped in Boulder, Colorado to visit some friends, and my friend took me to the mall or the record store, and he was like, "You have to buy this cassette. This just came out. This band Nirvana, this album Nevermind is so good. You have to get it." So I bought the cassette, and I was like driving cross country, listening to it the whole way. I got like obsessed with this album, and I show up in San Diego and like around Halloween of '91, and to meet my new band, and I was like, have you guys heard this band Nirvana? And they're like, those were our neighbors. We just moved from Tacoma. Like, we just moved to San Diego. Like, we didn't think they're ever going to be popular. The Seattle scene was never going to blow up, so we moved to San Diego. So they moved like a week before Nirvana blew up. But luckily, we kind of landed right in San Diego in the early 90s. And, you know, all of our other bands that became big and friends of ours were, you know, it was like the next Seattle for a while. So it was like, you know, Blink and POD and, you know, obviously Jewel. Who else is, there's a million bands that made it big out of there. Incubus, Sublime, Korn, Deftones, all these guys were our buddies for, you know, years, Sugar Ray. So that was kind of like the scene we were in for that whole, basically the entire 90s. But we kind of just had one thing after another. We had sort of, hi there. We had issues and records and all kinds of stuff that happened there. So for whatever reason, it just never kind of took off. Like we put out three or four albums, had a good run. We were real popular, but just never kind of made it to that next level, you know? And so after about 10 years, we got a manager who signed us up to a kind of like a minor record deal. And he said, great band, bad name. We need to change the name. So we kind of revamped and we changed the name to Divided by Zero. And we put another album out. We had a good run on a tour. This is like the early 2000s. And that was pretty successful for the time. And then we kind of fell apart. The band fell apart and one thing led to another. And we kind of went on to other bands. But yeah, if you go to Spotify or iTunes, whatever, all those albums are out there. We've, I think, 3 or 4 Gould Spoon albums and 1 Divided by Zero album. And then after Divided by Zero, I 7, 2 albums under that title. And those are kind of all my solo songs, which are kind of more my songwriting style, more power poppy, Beatlesy, kind of acoustic-y, singer-songwriter-y type of psychedelic stuff. So yeah, I have a lot of albums out there pre Smash Mouth.
And the one album that you guys actually dropped that I thoroughly enjoyed was when the album that you guys dropped August 27th of 96, titled Medication, that I believe was actually released on Immune Records. Such a phenomenal project. I think it's still out there on Apple Music, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Oh yeah, it's out there. Yeah, we were on the same, that Immune Records was a San Diego label. Shout out to Jeff and Suzanne Forrest. They're still around. Double Time Recording Studios in Santee, where Blink recorded their first couple albums and a lot of other bands. But yeah, like our label was Bucko 9, super famous, or not super famous, but legendary ska punk band from San Diego, and Mike Keneally, who's he's now the guitar player for the Frank Zappa family thing, and he's still doing his thing. So yeah, that album came out in 96. That was a long time ago, and kind of the only reason that was like a big album for us was because we had a hookup for Sony PlayStation for the Twisted Metal game. At the time, was like, I think it was like the sequel to the biggest selling video game ever or something. It was like Twisted Metal 2 or 3. Song fan letters from all around the world of people that have discovered Gould Spoon from the Twisted Metal soundtrack that still ask for if we have CDs and stuff. So yeah, man, get your song into a video game soundtrack. That's the way you get lasting legacy out there now.
And Gould Spoon as well also had the opportunity to actually open up for many legendary acts, with one of them actually being Blink-182. I was wondering, from what you can recall from that tour, what was it like just being able to, you know, share the same stage as a colossal San Diego punk rock band as Blink-182? And of course, did you get the opportunity to kick it with Mark, Tom, or Travis?
Well, it wasn't a tour so much as we came up in this sort of legendary all ages club called Soma, San Diego, which is still there in a different location. But those early 90s shows, and we played there, you know, like once a month for 5 years in those early days. And it was, you know, the lineup was, I mean, honestly, Blink opened for my bands many times. So as did Sublime and Incubus and all these other bands. And then, you know, we opened for them, and it was just sort of like we all played together in those days. So I have these great flyers from back in the day from like our album release. It's like, you know, we're headlining, there's like POD and Blink and Unwritten Law, and, you know, so it was crazy, man. I didn't know the Blink guys that well, just to say hi to, honestly. It was before Travis was in the band. I knew the other guys, like Unwritten Law guys were our bros. They still are. Scott and Wade and Rob and all those guys from the early days. Who else? Sprung Monkey was a big one. There was a band called Honey Glaze, Flat in Manhattan, Freak Scene. It was like we were kind of like in the Outcast, kind of freaky, funky, metally, reggae. Like, you know, it went on to become new metal, I guess, but at the time they had no name for it. So we just got to play with every band that had no style. Whereas Blink sort of played with the more power or the pop punk kind of lineups as the scene progressed, and then Buck O'Neill played with the more the ska punk lineups. So they kind of had their own scenes, but we were kind of like this weird band that had no particular style, so we played with everybody. So unfortunately, I have no good stories about Blink. I will say that Travis is a great drummer, and they're definitely got a lot better, and now they're like doing their victory lap, and so I'm proud of them. It's amazing. Like they have actually lasting legacy, which is incredible.
And it's also great that you guys had that Oh, my apologies, Zach. I was just saying, but when we said a few moments ago about how, you know, you guys never really had a genre of music that you guys really like were considered, and that's a great thing to have, especially when you're playing shows, because then you're not just set to one genre of music. You can kind of get into all the subgenres as well, and kind of get your foot in so many other doors as well.
Yeah, I think we kind of like pushed it a little bit too far, like in retrospect. Like we didn't have that one radio catchy, cohesive song. You know, like we had these like 7-minute long songs that were like, you know, jazz metal rock odysseys with like the reggae breakdown and then like the hip hop middle. It was just like, it was good, but for the time, it was very innovative at the time. But I think, you know, looking at a band like Red Hot Chili Peppers or Faith No More, who took that style and sort of like honed it down to 3-minute radio songs. You know, but we got better at songwriting as time went on, you know, and we got to play with a lot of different people.
And also as well, aside from actually concerts, you had the opportunity to do theater where you actually sang all lead vocals in a theater production for the 50th anniversary of the Beatles' Abbey Road. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about your history within theater, and of course, what was it like just working on that particular Beatles project? Because the Beatles is such a colossal band. Like even if you don't know the Beatles, you definitely know at least one or two of their songs.
I bet most people know more than one or two Beatles songs. I'm gonna gamble. Yeah, well, I've always been a huge Beatles fan. I mean, I got John Lennon's autograph when I was 10 years old, right before he died. I wrote him a letter and he sent it back to me, like, and I got it back a couple days after he died. So I still have it, like, to Zach, John Lennon. So so I've been like a super Beatles fan forever. I grew up doing lots of theater. I was like the star of all the high school plays and musicals. I did Grease. I did, you know, a bunch of stuff. The Beatles thing was only about 5 years ago. Actually, I was kind of relatively new. I had been doing a bunch of different projects with my friend Bobby, who is a great drummer, and we did a bunch of different projects together. And he just kind of recruited me. He says, "Hey, would you want to do like a paid, you know, theater, like it was sort of like a musical documentary of Abbey Road. So basically, it was like a movie that explained it song by song and broke down the story behind every song with a video, and then that linked into us starting the song. So it'd, you know, tell the story, and then it would be us playing Come Together, and then it would go into, you know, Here Comes the Sun and the whole thing. So yeah, we did that for a couple of years, right before COVID. Actually, COVID kind of ended it in Santa Monica here in LA, and it was great. I mean, it was I think the drummer sang one song, but besides that, I did lead vocals on the whole thing. And then we had to play to track, you know, because some of the orchestral stuff we had to have, you know, to track. And then it also was synced up with video. So that was kind of like my first time doing that, which was a super challenge to have to, you know, there's basically no room for error. You know, like in theater, you can, if you drop a line, you can kind of fake it or you know, whatever. But when you're singing to track and to video, sync, it's like no room for error. So it was definitely stressful when I first started it, but it was awesome experience to learn how to kind of relearn how to do theater and like the high parts on the Paul songs. It's like, guy's got a good range. So it was super challenging, but awesome. It's very fun. And unfortunately, COVID put an end to that one. So we moved on to other projects.
And also as well, March 1st of 2020 through 2022, sorry, you were announced as the new lead singer for the multi-platinum legendary band Smash Mouth. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a story behind what ultimately led you to taking over lead vocals for the late great Steve Harwell.
This is true. Is there a question in there?
Oh, my apologies. I must have cut out. My apologies. The question was actually on March 1st of 2022. You actually were announced. I was wondering, like, what ultimately led to you actually taking over for Steve Harwell, and of course, like, just joining Smash Mouth as their brand new lead singer. Because I got to say, like I told you via private DM, man, you definitely absolutely kill it, and are such a great addition to Smash Mouth.
Oh, thank you. Well, I can give you the kind of shortened, the elevator version of the story. Basically, those guys placed an ad, and I responded to the ad, and they got back to me, and I basically showed them my YouTube page because I did a bunch of during COVID. I had done like 100 covers in 100. I was bored, so I did 100 covers in 100 days, like acoustic covers, to raise money for my local food bank here in LA. And so I had tons of content. So I guess you call it. The kids are calling it content these days. So I had a bunch of content of like 100 songs up there. I would just wake up every day and be like, hey, I'm going to do a Bowie song, I'm going to do a Beatles song, I'm going to do an Elvis Costello song, Tom Waits, whatever. Like I would just think of a song and just do it and put it up there. So I had all these songs. So I just said, hey, here's my YouTube page. I have a pretty good range of different experiences. And then they got back to me. They liked what they saw, I guess. And I did sort of like a video audition for Walking on the Sun, and they liked that. And then I did one for All Star, and they liked that. And then it kind of progressed. We talked on the phone a couple times, and then they wanted me to come up to San Jose to meet Paul, who is like the original founding bass player. And so just to see like if we vibed and if we got along, type of thing. We did that, and we got along great. We have a lot of the same influences, and we had a lot of common, like he's a little older than me, and he's Northern California, I'm Southern California, but still we came up in a very similar sort of way. I mean, I didn't think of it at the time, but Smash Mouth kind of was the Ghoul Spoon of their day. Like they had all these different styles. They had reggae, they had punk, they had ska, they had lounge. The difference was they had great camp, and they had Paul Lyle. They had these great songs, and they broke through and had a number one smash with Walking on the Sun, which we never had. So Paul and I had a lot of sort of shared commonality with our influences. We both love the Pixies and old punk rock and new wave. And so we got along great, and we jammed some songs together. I don't know if you're still here because your video's gone.
I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here.
Another, and
just enjoying the story.
Then I did the audition with some other people, and I got the gig. So did all that come through?
It all came through yet. And I have to say as well, because like I said, you have such a unique voice as well. Steve had a very unique. Oh, my apologies. I was going to say, you have a very unique voice. And of course, Steve Harwell had a very unique voice as well that really, just gave the staple to that Smash Mouth sound. When you hear All Star, you know it's Steve type thing. Taking over for someone like Steve, was it difficult for you to kind of learn the and get up on stage? Like, what was your very first concert with Smash Mouth actually like? Was it nerve-wracking, or did you go out there and just absolutely kill it?
Well, it was on YouTube. The first was, I just got out there. The first show was a festival in Guadalajara, in front of like maybe 40,000 people, with the Strokes and Kings of Leon and Blondie. So it was like a big festival, the Corona Capital, a couple years ago on Memorial Day. And I went down there. It was like we were supposed to play a couple warm-up shows that just kind of never happened. So I was like, well, I guess your first show is the festival. And I went. I had. It was one of those things where it's sort of like Coachella, where like you don't ever see the crowd. Like we're backstage at this like crazy like green room miles away, and they have golf carts that bring you to the meet and greet and the press and lunch. And so I didn't know what the crowd was. I had never seen it. And we're backstage, right before we go on. It's like, well, this is it. And there's a big black curtain that you can't see what's going to happen. And I was just warming up, getting ready, and my drummer just goes, Zach, it's a big stage out there. Feel free to explore the stage. Kind of like Christopher Walken with the cowbell, he's like, explore the stage. And so I did. I kind of went out there. The curtain drops and it's like a lot of people. And yeah, we killed it. It was like just kind of clicked. The crowd loved it. They were super welcoming. We played great. My voice sounded good. Like I felt confident in what I was doing. And people always ask me like, were you nervous? And I'm like, I really wasn't nervous. Like I've been kind of preparing for this for 30 years. So it's kind of like what I was put here to do. And so I finally got the opportunity and I wasn't going to waste it, So every show, that was 2 years ago. We've done 2 full summers of touring since then. Knock on wood, we really haven't had any bad shows. The crowds are just incredible. They've been so welcoming and it's sort of like honoring the legacy of Steve but they also kind of like kind of myself too. So it's a bit of a balance, but it seems to work. People seem to like it. There's always going to be haters. You can't always read the comment section, but all I could do is my best and respect the legacy that he left behind while still kind of trying to be myself and hope people dig it.
Well, I could definitely say this, Zach. Obviously, there's always going to be haters, especially on social media, but I can tell you from a Smash Mouth fan way back in the day, 20 plus years, and I can say they definitely made the right decision by bringing you into the band Smash Mouth, man, because you definitely take Steve's vocals, you do it so well, but you also add your own twist to make it sound like your own as well, man. Certainly doing with yourself and of course the rest of the members currently.
Thanks. Have you had a chance to come out to a show yet?
I have not, unfortunately, but the next time you guys hit Canada, my eyes are peeled on that website because I have to. I did see a Smash Mouth show back in the day with Steve, but I have not seen anything recently, so I feel as a Smash Mouth fan, I feel like I'm neglecting myself by not venturing out to a show. So recently, no. Back in the day, yes.
Yeah, we've only played Canada once or twice with me. We did Niagara Falls. That's like, I guess it's like just barely Canada. It's like just over the border. We played the Canada side, right? Yeah. But hopefully this summer we'll have more international. I know we have some couple out of the country shows coming up. I'm not sure about Canada yet, but hopefully we will. There's a delay here.
I'm definitely fingers crossed for a summer. Definitely fingers crossed for a summer Canada show.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I'm actually currently in college, and it would be absolutely great. Sounds like one hell of a.
Well, we have two. Our drummer's Canadian and our
and also November 17th of 2023. So. I knew the drummer was Canadian. I didn't know about the bass players, so I guess they say you learn something new every day. Yeah, but I didn't know Smash Mouth's drummer was Canadian.
Yep, Paul, the original founding member, Paul is Canadian as well, and our crew, our guitar tech, Christian's also Canadian. So we have three of the 8 traveling members of our party are Canadian.
But also as well, November 17th of 2023, so just a few months ago, right before Christmas, you guys actually released the 10-track holiday album titled Mistletoes. I was wondering, what actually made you guys decide to create a Christmas album? And of course, are there any hard copies available to be purchased?
No hard copies as far as I know, unfortunately. Maybe we'll press it on vinyl for next Christmas, but it was kind of like we decided to do it. Like we talked about it way earlier in the year, but then it kind of didn't come together for whatever reason. And then by the time we got serious about it, we were already on tour, like on the road. So we had to kind of like record it, and we would come home during the week, leave for the weekend. So we had to kind of like email tracks around. So it was definitely the most, the most challenging time of our career to start a new album. So we kind of had to bust it out. We didn't really have time to overthink it. We basically, Paul wrote 2 original songs, and then Mike Klooster, the keyboard player, wrote 1 song. And I was like, I want to write a song. So I wrote 1 song. So we had 4. The album starts off with 4 originals, and then there's 6 covers of classic songs, and most of them are sort of like fun, up-tempo, kind of punky or reggae, ska-ish versions of those songs. And honestly, I did all my vocals in 2 like 3-hour sessions. So I've recorded all the vocals in like 6 hours, which is kind of unusual for a full album. So we didn't overthink it. I kind of went with like our first or second take for the vocals. And I think it came out really good. People seem to like it. Christmas albums are always hard because they're kind of corny, they're kind of cheesy, but people also love Christmas music, some of them do. And so it's just one of those things where, it seemed like a good idea at the time. We had some original songs. From the Bangles on Christmas Wrapping, the classic Waitresses song. And then we got Sophie Gray, who's an up-and-coming singer-songwriter here in LA, to duet on Last Christmas. And so, yeah, it came out good, and it's in the can for next year. It's one of those things where it'll live on in the universe, and who knows what can become of a Christmas song. Who would have thought that Mariah Carey would have the biggest song of all time? So anything's possible.
And I have to say, I had you guys actually drop that around Christmas time because it gave me a kind of an escape from actually listening to transitional radio. And I know I'm in the radio industry, but come to all that, so it's good to actually have something to kind of fall back on and listen to during the holiday season.
Cool. I'm glad someone was listening.
But I have to ask, Zach, because obviously, Smash Mouth is just getting started. You joined the band not too long ago. You guys have been touring the world, making amazing music. But I have to ask, what is next for yourself, Zach Goode of Smash Mouth, and of course the rest of the band as well? Do you guys got a studio album you guys are currently working on? Like anything you still want to touch on, talk about, or promote? We still got you here live on the radio station airwaves tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we've released we've already recorded 4 more original songs. 2 of them we've already put out. We put out 4th of July, and we put out Underground Sun already. So we have 2 original songs we've already released with me and the band over the last year, as well as Never Gonna Give You Up, which was the cover we put out when I first joined. We've already recorded 2 more original songs. That's 5. I've written a few that hopefully we can record before too long. And we're just kind of recording them one by one, and hopefully we'll have enough for a full album by either by summer, or somewhere around there. That's the goal, is just to have a new album. I don't think it matters that much in this day and age to have a full album. It's like, I don't know how many people listen anymore, as opposed to just listening to the one song they like, or, so, but we're all creative people and songwriters. So I just feel like it's something we have to keep doing, and, putting out music, whether people find it or not. Cause I mean, all the time people are like, hey, you guys didn't release any new music? And I'm like, we've already put out 3 songs and a full Christmas album. We've released 16 songs already with me on vocals, So it's out there, and there'll be more coming. I'm also hoping to finish up a solo album I've been working on. I've been doing some co-writing with some other people. I have a vocal on this new song by Chad Tepper called Money, which came out a month or so ago, which is everywhere, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm just available to co-write and expand my horizons and write and record new music. I also do voiceover and acting stuff, so I've been doing some commercial auditions for stuff. So hopefully some of that will pan out. What else? I don't know. I'm just want to be creative and put new stuff in the universe and make people happy and play shows and jump around.
And before we part ways, Zach, obviously I know how to follow you on social media, but for the individuals that aren't following the lead singer of Smash Mouth, which honestly, if you're watching this and you're not following Zach, you have to follow him. But where can we actually follow you across all social media platforms? That way we can actually stay updated.
Well, I do have a website, and by the way, my last name is Goode, so it's Zach Goode. So it's ZachGoode.com, ZachGoode.com. And then across all social media, I'm Divided by Zach with an H, Divided by Zach on Instagram and wherever else you could find me. And you'll see amazing content. It's just so exciting. Instagram. say hi. And then maybe you can interview me for your radio show too.
I definitely agree. Honestly, whenever that's ready, definitely let me know, and we can definitely get you back on. Honestly, because I do know we only touch base on a tiny percentage of your amazing career. I do know we didn't even go into the voiceover work side of things. So I always like leaving little aspects open. We can always, if it leads to it, you can always do a second interview. But I do know that you're currently at a sporting event, a practice, so I'm not going to take you up any longer tonight. But I just got to say quickly, Zach, thank you so much for just everything you've done for the music industry, and of course, stepping up, becoming a part of Smash Mouth, and just continuing on not only Steve's legacy, but of course Smash Mouth in general. Man, you are part of a band that honestly has helped so many individuals through so many years. So I'm really super excited just to hear what comes next with Smash Mouth as Zach as a lead singer. Because like I said, you have a very phenomenal, unique voice, and you bring a lot to the table. So I can only imagine what's next. The sky is the limit for Smash Mouth, and I think I think I can say this: you guys are only just getting started.
Let's hope so, man. It's gonna be a fun summer. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you listening. Thank you to all the fans for being so nice and accepting. And it's going to be a crazy summer. We got lots of stuff coming up that hasn't been announced yet. So stay tuned for that. And come and find me online and say hi. And we'll see you at a show. Stay tuned for that.
But thank you, Zach. Have yourself a wonderful night, and we definitely shall talk again here soon. Thank you so much again.
All right, guys. Happy New Year. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.